Welcome to Wire Girls. This tutorial is a quick make, really super fast and easy to make. It's like a stylized leaf, as you can see, and it has a little bead on it. Material's really easy. You're going to need an 8mm bead, but if you want to use a 6 or a 10 or a 12, entirely up to you, and some 14 gauge or 1.6mm round wire. You'll probably also need a small scrap of wire to actually hold the bead on, but that can be any size, anything that you've got lying around that will go through the middle of the bead. So this is what we're going to make. As you can see, very pretty, delicate, light, really easy to sell. These are, if you're doing craft fairs and things like that, these are great to have because you can mark them up very reasonably and sell lots and lots of them, especially with different pretty beads on them. So I've got my 1.6 or 14 gauge wire, and I'm just going to try and take a length off that. I want approximately 6" or 15 centimeters of wire. If you want to make these a bit bigger, take more wire. If you want them to make them smaller, you can use less. I'm just trimming the ends. I've got some ultra flush cut pliers, but if you cut the wrong way around, you still get a little point. So if you just trim the ends to make sure that you've got flat ends. As I say, I've got about 6 inches here. I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to put a curl in the end. This is going to create our bail so that someone can put a thong or a ribbon or a chain or a piece of Viking knit, whatever, through it to actually wear it. So I went through and bent it into a circle, and now I've bent it back so that circle sits central. You don't want too much poking into the chest when you're wearing a pendant, even with a light one like this. So that just needs closing up a little bit. If you find with these heavier gauges that you can't close them up with the pliers, it's often easier to give them a tap with a hammer. Now we are going to do some hammering on this. So I've just popped that down and I'm just tapping that circle closed. Now I'm going to braid the circle itself. And I'm just tap over the top. It will not only strengthen it, which to tell you the truth, it doesn't really need with this gauge, but I do like the effect that it gives. You get a slightly hammered, planished effect, which is attractive. So this is our loop. Now I know that you're thinking normally that would go a certain way around, but I'm going to work this wrong. So I'll pliers in so that they're against the wire, and then you can use that as a pull so that you can actually get your side wire coming outwards underneath. You can then get your round nose pliers in and use your thumb, sorry, get my hands back where they should be, to make a nice soft curl. Yes, I do know that that bail is the wrong way around. Don't worry about it. We're going to sort that later. When you get to the point that's directly under the bail, where you want the point of your leaf to be, you can use flat pliers and put a nice bend in this. Close that out with my fingers. Then I'm going to use my hammer again. I'm not going to try and close that up with a pair of pliers, and I'm just going to tap on that bend while supporting it with my left hand, or if you're left-handed, your non-dominant hand. And I'm just going to repeatedly tap this so it goes together. As it starts going together, I'm flattening that end. Can you see how it's now flat? Let's give it a little bit more. There we go. If you go too far, you'll actually break the wire, so do be a little bit careful that you don't, smush it. Open that side up ever so slightly. I'm just going to beat that. I can just take that a little bit further. Now, round nose pliers onto the bend bit and curl. That gives you this lovely curled hook on the side. I'm just tapping it on the top. What's happened is the wires have moved ever so slightly so that they're not laying perfectly together. So flattening it over the top like that brings them back into line. Now I'm going to flatten the top of this end and give it a right good beating. Now I've taken the sound of the hammering out, but you can see by the fact that everything else is moving on the table that I really did quite beat that. round nose pliers onto it and bend and take it all the way around. Keep going. We want that flat piece to go past all the way around like that. There we are. So you've got your stylized shape. We've got the little hook at the bottom, little space ready for a bead. I've just got a tiny off bit of wire here. I think it's 0.5 mil, which is about 22 gauge, I think. Something like that, just maybe 23, 24 gauge. But anything that will go through your bead. I've got some very pretty faux pearls which are clinging onto the piece of string for all their life. So let me just get one of those off for you. There we go. And that's going to sit on my loop. Now, if you're going to use a much bigger bead, if you're going to want to use something like a 14 mil or a 12 mil bead, obviously you're going to have to make that circle a little bit bigger. But it's amazing what will go on. So remember that that's the wrong way round. So we'll straighten that up now. You just put your pliers over the top of the loop, hold the framework in your left hand and twist there. Now the right way around. The reason I did it the wrong way around is it makes all the hammering easier. That's all. There we go. Let's get that neat. Now let's put our pearl on. So over the top, take the wires and I'm going to wrap around. I moved the bead slightly so that I'm only wrapping around one. You know how we made a circle and it doubled up, so in some places there was two pieces of the thicker wire. Well, here there's only one, so I just twisted the bead slightly. I wrapped around maybe 4 or 5 times and then trimmed it off. Then pliers over the top and smooth that down. Close it together and smooth it. And then I'm going to fasten it onto the other side. In we go through there. Pull that nice and tight. I use pliers there to pull it tight to make sure that that bead is sitting right down on that frame. You don't want that. If you wrap the wire around the first time and it's a little bit loose, your bead will sort of, have a little bit of play and it will move slightly up and down. We don't want that. So I made sure that first pull was really, really tight. Again, wrapping around 3, 4, 5 times. It doesn't matter how many. Just don't do too little. If you do too little, there is the chance that the bead might come off. We go. And then trim it short and smooth it down. Go on. I want you just to tuck in the inside there. That's it. And basically that's it. Done. Takes you about 5 minutes. Little pendant. All different beads, make them look different ways. You could use a lighter gauge of wire and do them. That might be a little sharp. If that's sharp, just use a file and just go over the edge with a file. Like I say, if you want to make matching earrings, do them in a lighter gauge of wire. Mine have been oxidized, all finished. A really nice quick make. Thank you very much for watching. Happy wrapping.